What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Glad you guys are out there having hopefully a good Friday so far. This is JT here reporting from the daily general discussion on Reddit, and we're real happy to be presenting this to you live from the EV Mavericks stage on Discord. This is the Daily Doots podcast, episode 145 for this most holy Easter weekend. Okay. April 3rd, 2026. Give us a thumbs up, smash the bell if you haven't already. We are streaming live on Twitch and on X and on YouTube. And if you want to hang out with us on Discord, that's great as well. We hope that you drop in on Discord and say hi. I'm flying solo today. We are working on a couple of guests down the road. Quidley from France on April, I think, 17th. And I'm looking at Frankencoin for the early part of May. So a couple of projects, we'll get some guests on the books. And yeah, as always, stay tuned to dailydoots.com. Well, without further ado, let's just jump right on into it.
If Vitalik took time off, we would lose a great researcher.
A great mind.
And he's not just writing about Ethereum, he's writing about collusion systems.
Crypto economics.
The weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the best from the daily general discussion on Reddit. This is a read-along reaction series. If you want to follow along, head to dailydoots.com. Designed and produced by our very own Hani Abu. And big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing and curating each one of these Doots, and the A-Word for curating this most beloved weekly list. And as always, if you know somebody who wants to get in on this action, send them my way. Well, let's just jump straight on over to our rich list for this week. Coming in at number 10, Ethical Trade at 121. The A-Word at 121. That's a tie. Crypto Wow Currency at 136. Hani Abu at 136. Another tie in the top 10. JS Tears at 149. Tricky Troll at 178. Benito 2030 at 181. Super Fizz at 244. Logri the Bard at 259. And Harag at the top of the list at 333. Let's see here. I'm going to move on over to our weekly roundups. Let's see. Scroll to the bottom here and click over on 2026. Weekly roundups for this episode, curated by the A-Word. Morning roundup. Mysterious Town 6196 chimes in Ethereum. Alexis Kef at 2055 on the price, and Frank the Tank at 0.0308 on the old ratio. The weekly haiku, courtesy of JS Tears. Rally to expect. Signals are hard to detect. ECC effect. It looks like we got Logri the Bard joining us on the stage on Discord. Hello, Logri. How's it going? Good to see you.
Good day.
All right. Moving on down. Ethereal news. If you want to catch up, our fellow moderator, user AB Kothup, has Ethereal News Weekly number 18 is live. Reporting on Justin Drake, the quantum breakthrough papers. Aave version 4 is released, as well as Aztec Alpha. So make sure you subscribe to Ethereal News. Weekly 18 is now available for you. Ship post of the week, because we always like to save the best for first. We got Fiberpunk 2077. I don't recognize that name. Yeah, Duder 24, been around a long time. Maybe I'm getting a little bit senile at my age. Fiberpunk 2077 for our shippos. Well, I don't mean to make light of people losing money, but sometimes the universe has the most ironic sense of humor. The setup: Hyperbridge puts out a questionable April Fool's tweet pretending they were hacked, to which Solana's Mert responds with an even less funny response, asking Grok to save the fact that Hyperbridge is not secure and is known to lose people's money. Oh my gosh. Not even an hour later, Mert tweets again that Drift, a Solana DeFi exchange, is being hacked and drained. But this isn't an April Fool's joke and was later confirmed by Drift. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Original X link. Opening this up here. Mert. There it is. Oh, man. See, this is... And Hyperbridge, I don't know if this is, yeah, the Hyperbridge account says, you see, this is why we don't support Solana. Oh boy. Okay. The April Fools went wrong. Here we go. Yeah, that's a Twitter thread. If you guys want to go check that out, you can find it at dailydoots.com. It's kind of like, I don't know about you, Logri, but I think it's kind of bad juju to be tweeting April Fool's jokes about scams, hacks, or unreliable software. Maybe not a great day to pull a funny like that.
Yeah, it wasn't as funny when it was the real thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Alexis Kef, legendary Alexis Kef celebrates a big win for privacy and civil rights in the EU. Alexis Kef this week has climbed up, sitting at 103 points. Going to be on that rich list soon, I have a feeling, within months, not years. All right, Alexis Kef, a big win for privacy and civil rights in the European Union. Well, it's good news for our privacy fund. The quote says EU chat control is defeated for the third time as the amendment to stop messaging apps from scanning private messages and break end-to-end encryption passed by one vote. Oh my gosh. Only one vote to pass that or defeat it?
One vote to defeat it, yeah.
That's sad. It should be an overwhelming defeat, not one vote. That's just one like Israeli lobbyist to get that figured out. Okay, I'm picking on Israel. Yep. I know how that works in the U.S. Martin Sonneborn, this continues to quote, a German MEP claimed his single vote was decisive against the EU's controversial chat control proposal. Quote, looks like my vote was the deciding one on the decisive amendment against chat control. The trip to Brussels was worth it. The amendment passed by just one vote, 307 in favor and 306. There are 306 people who don't have priorities of the common people in mind. That's crazy. I'm sure there's more to it than that. And I'm just reading this based off of what somebody wrote on Reddit that wrote on another website that I'm now reading. So I don't know. If it's like the U.S., whenever there's controversial votes and stuff, it's always the devil's in the details of all the other crap that people are trying to slide in or eliminate. Anyway. User Austrian AOE looks at Google's post-quantum timeline and connects it to Ethereum's lead in this regard. So user Austrian AOE is not on the Doots list, but they made it to the weekly Doots. How cool is that? Let me see. Maybe I missed something here. Did they make it on the Daily Doots that day? They did not. Huh. You know what I'm going to do live on the thing here? I'm going to give them their Doots score. Whoops. All right, let me get this figured out. Sorry, y'all. All right, there you go. Duder number one. Made it. There you go. Duder number one getting on the weekly show. This is Google's post-quantum timeline and connects it to Ethereum's lead. With Google setting a timeline for post-quantum migration to 2029, and there's a blog here you could go to, Ethereum is the best network position to the post-quantum roadmap as strategic priority. BTC devs are minimizing or not taking the issue seriously. It will be interesting to see how it unfolds given how long it takes to do network upgrades on BTC, especially given upgrades are submitted through soft forks, which complicates and slows down the process. Boy, I tell you what, Logri, this is like the long game of 4D chess that apparently Ethereum has to take in order to beat Bitcoin. Is just Bitcoin's complacence kills itself first. I don't know what they're going to do. It just sounds dire.
Well, even if they decided to act, this is not a new topic, right? So we're retreading ground here. But
I'd love to hear it.
Even if they decide to act, what do you do? So remember, this is if you have the public key for Satoshi because of the way he is basically was using an older system when he was using his account because Satoshi. So if you have his public key and everyone does, you can generate the private key that allows you to sign messages, sign transactions with it. So how do you hard fork that? different signing algorithm. As long as it would use the same private key, it doesn't matter. You would just sign a different algorithm with a new, with the same private key. Do you zero the funds? Well, that violates monetary sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
Do you force everyone who had one of the old addresses to move to a new address? Some of those people are gone, or it's vaulted, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do? It's one of those very contentious issues, just like the security budget issue in Bitcoin, right? Where there's not an obvious answer that has like unanimous consensus, and so they stick their head in the sand and want to ignore it for another 4, 8, 12, whatever, however many years, right? And I'm glad that there is something on the horizon that's going to force them to do some type of fork before 16 years later, when the security budget fails and then people double spend on the chain to create an attack. So I'm glad there's something a little bit more urgent than that, so we can just see, can they respond at all? And at least this one is going to be limited to the blast radius is known, right? It's all the
Right.
Satoshi style coins, right? So yeah, is Ethereum going to get it done in time? And if you're someone who has a quantum computer capable of breaking elliptical curve cryptography, is the first place that you go with that stealing Bitcoins? If you're Google and you steal a bunch of Bitcoins from Satoshi, how do you end up in court for that? Assume he's dead, just as a prior.
Right.
Is he going to take you to court?
Oh, it's like a lost treasure chest,
Kinda, yeah.
Interesting.
So these be like, well, you don't have proof that's lost. Well, then he can show up in court and sue me. But does anyone else have standing? So everyone's kind of hurt by the fact that someone's going to claim all those Bitcoins and sell them, right? The whole
Right.
Bitcoin market cap drops, Ether market caps drop because Bitcoin market cap drops. Everyone's going to be kind of hurt. But who has standing in court? But if you're Google, do you want to take that risk? If you are Google and you have the world's best quantum computer, is the first place that you want to use that on Bitcoin, or do you want to break Chinese encrypted communications for the US military and keep the fact that you can break encryption a secret for now?
There's a lot.
If you're China, same question. Do you want to reveal that you can break encryption to the world for the prize of, I don't know, a couple tens of billions of dollars?
Would it?
I don't know.
Is that worth it? Like, I'm just asking, if I had a quantum computer and I could do something nefarious with it, I wonder if it would be more advantageous to sip dividends by just infiltrating certain smart contracts and just doing little exploits around or is it pretty self-revealing that things are broken once somebody does something like this? I wonder.
Well, you have the private key to something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say that
so it could send the researchers down on a rabbit hole of like, how did they get it?
Let's talk about the $300 million hack that happened on Solana. That wasn't a smart contract exploit. That was an admin key exploit. Somehow the attackers got the admin key. Maybe the way they got the admin key is because they did quantum hack. You don't know.
We don't know. Yeah. So like, I guess my point is like, maybe it's easier to sip some dividends here and there rather than just blow up the whole chain, because then all of it's worthless,
Well, sure, but the first computer that can hack this is going to be like
front run it.
Well, it's going to be like, okay, this took us 300 days to hack it, right? It's not going to be instant. So do you want to spend 300 days in the world's most valuable computer on hacking some $10 million contract?
Right.
Or do you want to go for the tens of billions of dollars?
Yeah, that's true. Pot? But I mean, once it's worth, like, wouldn't the market panic and just take the price down? So now it's,
of course.
Or you are the market for a short time.
Expect the whole Bitcoin market cap to have.
Yeah, in half, just overnight.
Yeah, just like the panic and the sell pressure itself, right?
Yeah.
So people are going to be like, oh, God, the attackers got it. What are the attackers going to do next? Well, obviously, they're going to sell the Bitcoin. Well, I should sell my Bitcoin before the other million Bitcoin get sold.
And it's like, if they could hack that system, then God knows what other systems around the globe that...
Oh, this is going to be so much worse than the Y2K bug or something.
Yeah,
even just the fear of it, because like you take it, the Y2K bug was like, okay, the whole internet's going to crash.
I remember those days.
For other readers who are not gray haired as you and I,
Yeah, or bald.
or as bald as you, not I. Anyway, the this is going to be worse than the Y2K issue. And even though it's like, okay, there's like 3 quantum computers in the world, there's still going to be, well, what's going to happen next? And who's going to build the next one secret? Now the technology is there and all the papers are published. Is North Korea going to make one? Like, what? You're just going to wait for the next bombshell to fall, right? And the fear of that is going to go, it's going to take a long time to work its way through the ecosystem, through basically the entire internet, the entire computer science field, right? How many systems are using cryptography in some way?
Well, I'm
or
wondering
hashing in some way that could be reverse engineered too, right?
I wonder who's going to hand that quantum computer off to their AI agent. Let that thing have some fun with it, you know?
The quantum computer can only do very specific tasks. It's not a general purpose computer.
I get it, but I'm saying
you'd ask your AI agent. You'd say, "What should I apply this breaker to? This code breaker to?"
Yeah,
and be like, "Let's look on the internet and figure out something smart." Yeah, so it'll help you with crime. It's an AI; it doesn't care.
Door locks unlocking themselves, whatever.
So what should I unlock next with this magic wand? Right? It'll help you with that. But what is the fallout from quantum break Q-Day event? We are pretty sure it's going to be very negative on price, and it's going to not just on like Bitcoin, but like everything, like Microsoft shares. Like there's going to be a lot of risk that suddenly has to be priced into everything based on unknown hacks.
Yeah,
imagine the amount of surveillance you're going to get in identity theft, like purchase plans are going to be made because people are suddenly scared of what that could mean.
Yeah, there's gonna be a whole new insurance industry. Like,
who even if there's no actual threat yet, because like, why would China hack your individual, I don't know, Chase account or something, right? People are still gonna be afraid of it. Is my point.
Yeah,
and the fear will be bigger than, at least at first, the fear will be bigger than the real threat. Even though the real threats are still in tens of billions of dollars, the economic damage will probably be in hundreds of billions of dollars,
if not more. Well, it'll shift. It'll also shift. It'll shift money into hard assets, everything digital. I mean, just the immediate loss. There's certain sectors of society that'll have to be rewritten, like just codes of culture and conduct, because it'll be kind of fruitless to try to, do certain things online, knowing that somebody weaponizing a quantum computer, a nation state actor, most likely, right, could just upend it's
also one thing
city.
for us to say, okay, we can patch Ethereum and we can make it so that people can create new addresses. But if you sent an encrypted message 20 years ago, like that's going to be vulnerable to decryption forever.
Exactly. People
There's
that
no
rely on
take back.
Signal,
if it was intercepted by some man in the middle, so China wrote it down, China's going to be able to decrypt things that were perfectly viably encrypted and safe systems that they managed to intercept 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They could break all of that, right? So, like, the damage to this is a big spooky boogeyman. How is there anything in all those encrypted messages that is still a threat 20 years later, 10 years later?
Yeah.
Right? At what point do all of the defense industries switch out of using something that's based on a crackable type of cryptography to something that's new? Was it 2 years ago? Was it 4 years ago? Is it even today? Is it even today across all the systems? I'm confident that my banking system in talking to me is still just using a standard JWT, which is a crackable thing.
Well,
right?
And we're literally talking about the kind of the dawn of like capable quantum computers. This is just the starting line. All we're going to do, everything we've ever done is
let's say
scale.
The number of qubits doubles, right?
Exactly. It's like,
and we go from one computer to 4 of those computers with double those qubits.
This is like the first transistor. Now, what's it going to look like 20 years from now? Those transistors.
So one of my favorite fan theories from Star Wars is that the reason everything is so like air gapped to shit and they have to like manually crawl around the hard drive array and whatnot, in Star Wars is because it's a post quantum universe. So you
Yeah.
just assume that all communications can be broken by some quantum supercomputer running on Coruscant, right? And that makes a lot of sense that there's very limited things like credit transfers that the final bank is on Coruscant, and it's not secured by cryptography. It's ultimately secured by the fact that it's on Coruscant. You need a military to come make changes, come and get it, right? So the underlying balance is, as we would say, it's air gapped as shit. I love that as a fan theory, even though it's just there's no support evidence for this other than they wanted to add drama to scenes, and people crawling around in computer systems tends to do that. So, just the thought.
Very good. Well,
Non sequitur.
This is all good information. I always like hearing your takes on the future of all this craziness. In our little bubble, where we're threatened by quantum computers, is like, but that's just one bubble in a sea of bubbles.
Oh, well, you and we're going to be like, oh, well, they patched the Ethereum blockchain. Here's what we have to do: we have to make a new address and move all our assets or something.
Right,
okay,
right.
So like, I do that on a Tuesday. I'm good. Everyone else that isn't us on the blockchain, they've got this big spooky vector outside of their control. So does their bank move to a quantum encryption thing in time, or did they ignore it, right? Does the IRS move to a quantum resistant thing in time, or does it ignore it, right?
Yeah.
What about all their communications? Like, you live in a totalitarian state. Does that state acquire one of these quantum computers and crack your signal messages and use it for authoritarian purposes of cracking down on dissent and finding dissidents that want to use encrypted channels?
Watch the FDIC dissolve because they can't insure banks because not enough banks climbed onto the new tech stack.
They'd have to get the hacks from it first, and then remember, the banking system is largely reversible. So when there's an irregular movement, they'd be like, what happened? Like, if you had your password broken, then someone's able to initiate a transfer, right?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? But the banking system is built on a bunch of separate ledgers.
Yeah.
So even if I was to somehow hack the admin key to the Federal Reserve ledger and just make master key changes on their database, all the banks would be like, why does your balance not align with my balance? We should take this to court and go through reconciliation and get the real balance, right? And everyone bring their proof before a judge, and good luck quantum hacking the judge, right? So the fact that it's incumbent and duplicated and slow and was built for a day where you had to mail things across, countries and state lines, and reconciliation could take months.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mess.
Does make it more secure against instantaneous changes by a Q-day event, right? So I'm not worried as much about the banking system, but I am worried about cracking messaging systems for messages that I said are 10, 20 years old.
Right.
If you ever said something negative about the government,
Yeah.
and their ISP wrote that down, and the government gets their hands on it, and they're able to crack these keys in, I don't know, let's just say it drops down from a year to a day.
Yeah.
Okay, they're probably gonna eventually get around to cracking your key. I hope that you're out of that country by then.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as like moving from one Ethereum address to another. You have to leave the country to get out of threat there. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck if you're in Russia. Good luck if you're in Turkey, Afghanistan, whatever.
Okay, well, I'm gonna extrapolate that even a little further too. It's just even in the United States, like we're like probably 2 administrations away from a social credit score type of system, all in the name of protecting the children or anti-terrorism stuff, and it's all
the rate at which our freedoms have been eroded since the Patriot Act has been pretty astonishing.
Yeah, we're gonna see it. I honestly like just this Iran thing here. You just get a few more terrorist acts in the United States, and the Patriot Act will look like a walk in the park compared to what's coming next.
I've been amazed that even going back 10 years, drone technology was there and defenses were not in place against it. And we've had Fox News and media, the algorithm on Meta, turning people into extremists for profit for decades.
Oh yeah.
And the ability to take $1,000 drone, rig a grenade to it, and blow up a Supreme Court justice that you didn't approve how they were elected or whatever, that's been achievable from people of above average, but certainly not uniquely talented individuals for 10 years.
Yeah. That's
Then
fair.
the Ukraine war started, and drones are now being used and destroyed at a rate of 3 to 1 to soldiers. So for every soldier killed, there's like 3 drones being destroyed. Okay, so that's basically we've replaced artillery shells with drones, right? They're that commodified. I'm just amazed that no one has taken that to the US and committed terrorist events and killed people that are in the opposing political party, whichever side of that you happen to dislike. That there isn't someone who was still willing to get on a rooftop and shoot at Trump and hit him in the air, right?
I think it's coming.
But why was that person who was motivated enough to lose their own life not just spend $1,000 on a drone and do it that way instead? You
Access.
can't say it's jamming because, well, no, these drones you can go to Walmart and buy $1,000.
Oh,
surveillance
you're
drone.
talking about. Sorry, we're back in the U.S. That's a good point.
I mean, he was willing to die for it. And you can't say, "Oh, jamming's going to solve it," because we use fiber optic cables in the Ukraine war for communication from the controller. And guess what? The controller station doesn't have to be where you are either. You can Wi-Fi into the controller station, then run the wire from the controller station out to where the actual explosive drone is. So this is this the guy sitting up there on a platform giving a speech, and then a grenade falls on him and goes boom. American history be changed forever.
I will say this: I have a DJI drone, and anytime I'm near the fort, like Fort Leavenworth is nearby, or area airports, but especially sensitive government installations, at least with DJI drones, all of those are geo-fenced. It'll literally stop at an invisible stopping point. But that doesn't.
Okay.
But that
that
doesn't.
seems easy to jailbreak.
Yeah. So I'm giving an example that some of the off the shelf stuff needs to be jailbroke to get to that. And yeah, I don't dispute it, man. Yeah, it seems like it would make a whole lot more sense in the days of, I don't know. Drone warfare is still kind of new, at least with quadcopter stuff. Maybe, what gets learned in the battlefield of Ukraine, Russia, Israel, and Gaza eventually, and now Iran eventually carries over into the private sector. I mean, there's already a lock on selling DJI drones in the United States right now, and that's probably not related so much to this as it is just general tech spying, software that could be involved. You got basically remote cameras, thousands of them across the United States. I get it. So on a slightly darker, more tinfoil hat theory, I'll lay this one on you. The reason why they're not allowing, I've thought of this earlier. The reason why they're not allowing reporters in Gaza is not because of the absolute genocide taking place. It's that they don't want the world to see what Palantir is actually doing with drones in that area of Israel, country, Gaza. Because because Palantir's been doing stuff with Israel since 2014, I think. And I can only imagine with the absolute utter destruction and the amount of technology that they have, I bet they just got like swarms of those things running around in the sky constantly. And it's like, it looks different than what's...
That's how it is on the Ukraine front line. I mean, the front lines is this,
but we don't want
it's not a hard line. It's a vaporous thing, right? It's foggy.
Right.
So
but
the front line is a bit permeable.
It is, but there's the journalism, like the ability for just ordinary journalists to be able to document it and spread that out. It's like a vacuum. There's never been a war like this where journalists aren't allowed to go in or are just outright killed. I don't know. We should move on.
I don't think this is crypto very much anymore. But
it's not, but it's interesting. I hate that we're even having this discussion. Oh, look, somebody.
It's part of life.
Let's see. I got to get this guy's Add to the block list in Restream chat. Somebody left a naughty note. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. The Hans Gruber has
Hans?
exponentially increased their productivity with OpenClaw. Hans Gruber is a Deuter number 41. Well, mini story time as events are starting to pick up. About 18 months ago, I was copy pasting back and forth between VS Code and the browser chat box with GPT. Built a few wrappers, nothing special, but the light bulb went on, ding. Not long after, migrated to Cursor, which was itself like an order of magnitude jump in quality of life and productivity. And in the last few months, I have been hitting OpenClaw hard. There is a bit of a learning curve to really get it going, but once it's there, man, just chatting in a private Discord channel and having entire applications just pop up, spawning sub-agents, each pointed to a different frontier model, and having them discuss my ideas and open projects as an R&D council, deciding on a best course of action based on my guidance in the soul, agents, and user files, and then just doing it. Every 12 hours, I'm spending 50 cents on API calls for the council, and all the code and heavy lifting is done on a local model running in my rack. Self-improving and correcting skills installed. Every 12 hours, a new feature is just added to the stack, and it's more or less in line with my goals and actually useful. I had only moderate MATLAB and BabyScript writing experience prior to this. For example, I have a sub-agent, a local coding model, being directed by my chief of staff, best frontier model subscription or API if the sub doesn't work, generating OpenSCAD, SCAD, OpenSCAD models every 30 minutes for a machine I'm building for a pretty wild competition this summer. They aren't all winners, but holy shit, at least once a day, I look at the model, the description, its analyzed properties, material selections, manufacturing suggestions and considerations, modest physics simulations of the free body diagram, and likely forces needed to endure an operation. I have another sub-agent being directed the same way with the purpose of being an HFT on base hype. It's another order of magnitude from Cursor because it's everything Cursor is, plus everything else you can think of regarding using its own machine and how comfortable you are with security practices and what you're willing to hook it up to. And on top of that, Anthropic and NVIDIA just released their sanctioned versions. Dudes, dudettes, and semi are fully sentient agents. We are living in the vertical part of that exponential growth chart. I am literally 100x the engineer I was 18 months ago. I'll be 1000x before the year is over. And it's costing me, with some clever routing, about $100 per month across subs and API calls. If you haven't started yet, jump your PEBKAC ass into it. Write the F now. Thank me in a year. All right. That's the Hans Gruber looking at doing some heavy lifting engineering for a competition using some artificial intelligence. I understood what some of those words meant, but it sounds like he's got a chief and several agents working in tandem using some cloud compute to get to the end goal.
So he's hooked up some processes that says when you get a response from this thing, then, here's a loop of kind of thoughts to have. Like, one every 10 times, you're going to say, let's look at and code review the current solution, look at integration. 1 in 10 times, you're going to say, like, okay, let's look from our feature list and brainstorm some new feature suggestions in line with like what's been made already and keep our Kanban board up to date. And then another couple times going to go, okay, let's pick the top feature and start working on that, right? He basically built kind of like the project management layer using OpenClaw, and it sounds like he has some of the local coding done on local agents, which is not how I work. But nonetheless, he's basically gone from being a single engineer to then being like a middle manager of AIs when he was using Cursor, right? You'd like, rather than do the task yourself, you define the task and then have the AI implement the code. And then going from commanding a single engineer to commanding multiple engineers, you have one of them writing the tests, one of them writing the code, et cetera, combining and then sort of orchestrating and doing acceptance criteria testing.
Yeah.
And then added managerial agents on top of that go, here's the story, here's how you evaluate it. And these become different skills. And this is how you build complicated functionality. You start with simpler pieces at the base, and then you combine them into an agentic mesh and control system to build skills out of simple tasks, and then workflows out of simple skills. And now those workflows, you start to build basically roles, right? Like this is what the dev role looks like. It's these workflows, it's these skills. And then out of those roles, you start to build orgs. And he's at the level where he's trying to build primitive orgs out of combinations of roles, out of combinations of workflows, out of combinations of skills, because he's just evolving like that, right?
That's interesting.
This is what the future will look like. He's just doing it with the tools we have today. But the tools, each of those skills is going to get more powerful. And the orchestration layers I've described, the wiring between them all that holds the org together, that's going to get more powerful. One of my favorite agentic mesh orchestration tools is Shiza.ai, as in like from the DAI space. If you want decentralized inference, if you want someone to host a model for you, you can look at Morpheus. If you want to, if you care about privacy on the model, you can look at Venice. They're the biggest in that space. They can either anonymize your request and then send it off to Claude on your behalf, so it all just looks like it's coming from Venice and they don't know who sent it. Or they can have fully private models that have TEEs wrapped around them. So you can say like, okay, no one can even look at the query, even the node provider. How can I give my private query to someone and have them do inference on it without them being able to inspect it in the middle? Because the query has to be decrypted when it's being analyzed by the GPU. Right. So how do you allow it to be decrypted and analyzed by the GPU for inference without having the possibility of a man-in-the-middle attack, right? So we have the technology for all these things. We have in DAI, and I bet he's not using DAI tools as much as I wish he was, but in DAI, we have the privacy technologies that Claude is not going to offer you, that Gemini is not going to offer you. We have the hosting solutions. We have marketplaces for inference. We'll soon have marketplaces for training and for tasks, right? Down in the DeepIn land in your in your EigenCloud type things. Give it a few years to bake. We have the ability to finance these things. We have the ability to have shared models because you can combine data sets in the same way you can protect the inference, the query at inference time. You can protect the data set at training time. And so you'll be able to take your data set and allow someone else to license that data for training and produce a model that you partially own because it's tokenized and the revenue from the model flows from a Morpheus contract into a escrow contract you can claim rewards from, right? So because we can financialize, we even have this cool technology that allows you to, it's essentially like encrypting the model so that in order to do inference on it, they need a signed message from you at inference time. At which point, when that's done, you can throw the model up on Hugging Face or whatever. Anyone can download the model, anyone can serve it, but they still have to pay you to use it.
Oh, interesting.
Which is fancy technology, right?
Yeah.
So it allows you to really separate out the hosting solution from the model owning solution. So you can take your expertise, combine it with other people, fundraise off of creating a model for it by tokenizing and basically ICOing, take the funds, pay to have the model trained, be secure in that, take the model, putting up in Hugging Face, and then pay someone else to run the model to have it available for inference. And all you have to do is provide your expertise, and then figure out how to get people to try it, to actually use and pay for the inference on it, which is evangelization. So you can basically reduce this whole stack of you need to have a DevOps layer and understand all this stuff about AI and blah, 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 to various services you outsource and pay for while retaining data and model security. And then, once you have the model, then you can monetize on inference time and you can evangelize that. So take your skill set out to your network. If you're a dentist, you probably know other dentists. If you're a teacher, you probably know other teachers, right? Go through your teachers union or whatever and evangelize the adoption of that model in conjunction with the other teachers that have provided data to it and have helped fundraise for it.
I
and
hope
everyone can get
people
their
can
share of the money.
coordinate. That's getting people to coordinate is because a lot of people just want to go to a site, and just make it work.
Yeah, so there are sites where you can, as I said, Morpheus has the ability to discover agents. We're also going to have these new tools that will let you see proof of what the agent is good at. So uh, you'll be able to test on different topics what is an agent capable of, um, and then publish and discover agents that are good at certain skills, tests, areas, regions, whatever. Right. So that'll improve with an on-chain listing of agents and the proof system. You'll be able to amend. You'll be able to run the test on your own without anyone else to say so. Take the proof of its competency and amend it as additional metadata, kind of like leaving a review on an agent. But because it's proof based, right? No one can fake it. So we'll be able to prove and have this listing where anyone can post a new agent, a new model. We'll be able to make a claim on the derivation, kind of like you have a Git history on a model. You'll be able to say, where did this model come from? You'll be able to, by default, inherit the proofs of the owner to say, until proven otherwise, this thing is probably going to do basically similarly to what it was trained from.
Right.
Right. And then if you want to rerun the test on the submodel, you can. But otherwise, you would kind of inherit the proofs of the parent, and then you can do specific proofs on whatever you think you specialize the model on in order to say, like, I made it better at this. Cool. Prove it, right? So you do those proofs, and now the agents are discoverable by just the file type. And if you want to use it, you can run it on your own, but you still have to pay for its use by inference. If you want to pay for someone else to handle the inference on it, you can, right? We have things like Morpheus for inference marketplaces. So you're able to discover and use any model that you want on hundreds of skills, and then do what Hans Gruber here is proposing of creating agentic meshes and control systems to allow these things to become more complicated than just an individual skill, but to represent roles and at a higher level orgs, basically a whole business running entirely through DAI and your local box.
That's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for that color. That's Logri the Bard, tokenomicsexplained.com. I'm looking down our audience on Discord. Hello, Zombie BP and Palayo. Glad to have you along. All right, moving on down the list. Tricky Troll starts a philosophical AI discussion. Well, hell, we just did that. And gets great responses.
Yeah, it was the response to the other one.
Oh, this is it. Great responses from Logri and the Hans Gruber. Okay. All right, so I see this is a spinoff of what we just discussed. Okay, this is Tricky Troll responding. I just want to live a stable, relaxing life in the countryside with friends and family I like. Beyond that, money and material things don't mean anything to me beyond buying me security and options. And dipping my toes in the rat race of software development and startups honestly just made me less happy and only had me chasing money and number go up for no good reason. I prefer doing scientific research in a non-tech dominated field. It's rewarding and meaningful with none of the existential dread or overstimulation which tech provides. I'm happy for you increasing your productivity, Hans Gruber, but man, I'd rather we as a society just didn't do this, to be honest. I think the odds of doom are much greater than the odds of utopia, but to be fair, I'm not usually an optimist for things outside of my control. I'm blessed to have lived in the comfortable society I found myself raised in. But at this stage, I don't take the future for granted anymore. Maybe AI provides some hope to others less fortunate than I. It certainly should do in the non-doom and non-authoritarian dystopia scenarios. Logri responds, the book I'm writing on is the topic of small, more distributed AI. I share your goal of just wanting peace and security, but with as much going wrong as we can see, I just can't ignore the larger threats. The most general way to be prepared for so many contingencies is to have a cash reserve I can use to buy my way out of danger and live off the dividends of. Unfortunately, that cash reserve likely has to be in the $4 million range, so off to the grind. At least people I'm helping are smaller shops, and the AI work I'm doing is often privacy-focused, and therefore not piping in on customer data to big tech. Also, my current clients give me a pathway to leaving the U.S. this year. I'll lay out what I think is the most likely scenario with AI here. The TLDR, economic oppression leading to a reduction of the world's population by billions of people. You have seen this playing out in your life in slow motion already. I just think AI accelerates the trend. And you can read this article. It's called The AI Endgame by Logri the Bard at tokenomicsexplained.com. And then Hans Gruber, responding to Tricky's comment, I think the odds of doom are much greater than the odds of utopia. Hans writes, agree. Our current economic and geopolitical system is one which does not incentivize us moving towards utopia. It incentivizes each individual to try and achieve their own utopia, financial independence, at the expense of every other individual. I don't know if I agree with that. It incentivizes each individual to try and achieve their own utopia, which is financial independence at the expense of every other individual. Anyway, I'll keep going. Despite the crowning achievement of evolution resulting in sentience and, air quote, intelligence, if you zoom out far enough, the way we as a species are behaving now is no different than two grizzlies fighting to the death over the same salmon, despite there being an endless supply of salmon in the river that both grizzlies could have. We have a little infinite supply of energy in the form of a giant nuclear fireball 90 million miles away in space, and have developed the technology to harness it on this little mote of dust that orbits it, and yet the world is on the brink of chaos for the umpteenth time this century because a 20-mile wide strip of water can't be traversed by a giant floating metal holes carrying 100 million-year-old hydrocarbon juice. And combusting the juice actively only makes the only island paradise we know of in a 500 light-year sphere worse. I understand we rely on oil for most of the economy, that it was the tech tree we discovered first and built on it, and it just can't be switched off on a dime. My point, broadly speaking. This scales up to the corporate level. I lament this often, and it can be summed up in two words: shareholder value. Shareholder value was and is the downfall of our species. Even if there were a clear path forward that resulted in economic abundance and, air quote, utopia for all, for example, AI merged with robotics for most physical labor, well, those that already live the utopia lifestyle and also happen to be in charge of the planet and also happen to be the ones who will benefit the most financially from replacing human labor with the bots do not want this outcome, where everyone gets the same version of utopia they themselves exist in. They derive their sense of value from the fact that they made it and everyone else hasn't, and it makes them feel special and validated. I'm an armchair philosopher at best and a crackpot tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorist at worst. I think this is a genetic problem. The same genes that allowed us to survive along the banks of the Serengeti 7 million years ago are still present in us. I really think it's baked into our DNA. It isn't enough for me to have enough. I won't feel good about it unless I have more than the other guy. I don't know how to solve this. I'm not sure that it can be solved. If it's genetic, it would have to be edited out. If it is edited out now, how is that any different than just popping soma all day long? Now we are no longer human, we're something else, and now we are getting existential. As far as being an optimist goes, perhaps we really are on the brink of the next phase of humanity, or the next phase of intelligence. And because we don't have any other scale to go off of, we don't even know it. Maybe that's why all of the UFO, UAP, NHI stuff stopped caring about being seen, to the point where governments are having to actively manage disclosure. Maybe the NHI knows something we don't. I think that's another term for UFOs. The fact that we haven't been hit with the relativistic kill vehicle is already fantastic. So maybe we do have something of value to offer the universe. It very well may be the cause that the AGI tech tree is the one that matters in the universe, and the nuclear shenanigans we get up to just happen to precede it ever so slightly on a galactic timeline, and it acts like a lighthouse to let everyone else know that we have additional pylons under construction. Simulation hypothesis is also ogling me from the end of the bar, but we are still a long way from last call. Another quote from, I believe, also in response to Tricky's quote, I'm happy for you increasing your productivity, but man, I'd rather we as a society didn't do this, to be honest. Hans replies to that. You'll be happy to know that what I find most exciting about automating stuff with OpenClaw is I get to spend more time with my family instead of sitting in front of the computer all day. Touche. I could tell that we share the same philosophical values, more or less. I don't feel that I am smart enough to come up with the answers to these issues. Most days, I don't even feel qualified to be talking about it. But what I do know is that it has to be talked about. And if every individual all had the same thoughts and decided not to say anything, we wouldn't get anywhere. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Very good. Great back and forth. Tricky Troll, Hans Gruber, and, of course, Logri the Bard.
Just a very respectful conversation all around.
I freaking love the daily general discussion on Reddit. It is full of stuff like that some days, and I wish that more people were there. I really do, because it's that damn good. It's always good. Hans Gruber, yourself, Tricky. I mean, I really haven't been writing a bunch, but I do mod and I do read and I do this show, and it's my one way of shining a light on it. And as well as the rest of the team, I'm just kind of the talking head, but there's a whole team of us that put this podcast on. And boy, there's some good people out there. All right. Random Zalayan Main was asked why they built on Ethereum mainnet, and Hani Abu also provides good reasons. Random Zalayan Main is a Deuter number 20 for this week. Well, last week I was asked by an industry participant why I'm choosing to build our application on Ethereum mainnet rather than another chain. Think the entity had a partnership with Canton. So, what are some go-to responses to that question? As to me, it's such a natural choice. I said something along the lines of this. It's the only chain to have no downtime. It's battle-tested over a long period of time, which allows for the functionality of smart contracts, meaning minimized settlement risk for institutions. Another point, the deepest open-source developer tools available for the best plug-and-play build. Another point, the largest total value locked in DeFi applications. Any other statements I should add? Hani Abu responds. Hani Abu is a GOAT, a Deuter 136, also makes our website, dailydoots.com. Hani Abu replies, something I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned yet is adversarial risk. This is probably one of the strongest reasons in the language they understand. Credible neutrality, censorship, resistance, decentralization, security, etc. All of those are a means to providing adversarial risk. If you're a business owner, counterparty risk is one of the things you analyze. So you're not going to want to invest in building on a chain that's your competitor or even another company with their own interest. This is why we see so many companies launching their own chain. The same applies on a global scale as well. If you're a Russian or a Chinese company, you won't want to use some chain run by a U.S. company. So, for example, with Canton, the company's running a zone that can censor you. Let's say Tempo actually goes, air quote, permissionless. They'll still have a large influence from Stripe in the U.S. So if you're from China, you won't want to use that for fear of getting blacklisted or sanctioned, etc. Solana actively markets themselves as a USA chain, so the same issue there, even if you ignore all the other issues. Building on Ethereum protects you from adversarial risk. That's good. That's it. That's a bumper. There it is. That's the tweet.
Credible neutrality.
Building on Ethereum protects you from adversarial risk. That's a bumper sticker. Send it. Alexis Kef. Alexis Kef was mentioned earlier. Alexis Kef is a Deuter 103. Introduces the Ethereum Economic Zone. It's a new framework designed to fix fragmentation in the Ethereum layer 2 ecosystem. While rollups successfully improved scalability by lowering fees and increasing throughput, they also created networks with almost separate liquidity, bridges, and infrastructure. The Ethereum Economic Zone aims to reconnect the above networks, creating shared liquidity, unified security, and a smoother experience where users and protocols operate across environments without complex bridging. Interesting. The goal is to maintain Ethereum as the core settlement and security layer while making the ecosystem function more like one unified economic system rather than many disconnected chains. The project is being developed as open, shared Ethereum infrastructure, led by the contributors including Gnosis, with funding from the Ethereum Foundation and technical leadership from Jordi Bailina, who created CIRCOM and has been at the forefront of zero-knowledge proof systems for years. His work on ZK EVM is some of the most battle-tested ZK infrastructure in production, and he is also the founder of Zisk, a high-performing proving stack that will be used within the EEZ. That's called the Ethereum Economic Zone, if you were taking notes. Most people here know the value that Gnosis has brought to Ethereum all these years, but for those of you who don't, here's a very impressive short Gnosis resume. Quote, Gnosis has been building Ethereum infrastructure since the first week smart contracts were live, literally. Our first transaction on Ethereum was in August of 2015, and since then our engineers built the constant product AMM model, which became the foundation of much of DeFi. The conditional token framework, now used by Polymarket, the COW protocol, which pioneered batch auctions and intent-based trading. Is that the same as CowSwap? No. And Safe. Oh, I remember Safe. The first production smart contract wallet, securing over $58 billion. Over the coming weeks, they'll publish these things. This is the EEZ again. Remember that? The Ethereum Economic Zone. Bullet 1, technical architecture and protocol specs, performance benchmarks, details on developer tooling and ecosystem integrations, clear paths for existing Ethereum protocols to leverage the EEZ. There's been an edit. I'll go that. Let's see. I think that sums it up. So there you go. The Ethereum Economic Zone. Let's get all these L2s functioning with less bridging and slowing down the end user. I like it. It's going to make, I'm assuming, a lot of UI improvements for the customer. Nicolo J discusses the Aave V4 launch and their DeFi Saver integration for it. Yo, Nicola, look what I got on, babe. I got this at ETH Denver a couple years ago. I just realized I wore this on last week's show. It's just listen, man, it's a comfortable shirt. You guys have the best swag. So shout out to the DeFi Saver team. Not a sponsor. Fellow DeFi enjoyers, Aave V4 just went live today during ECC, and I just want to highlight the DeFi Saver support went live too, including our signature one transaction leverage or one TX leverage features, as well as a number of automation options. Thanks for your attention to this matter. And on a more serious note, I also welcome any questions about V4 or our integration of it just as soon as I grab some lunch after a long day at the venue. There we go. So there's the Aave. I'm going to retweet that, and I'm going to retweet or re-X or whatever this for DeFi Saver. So congrats to your team. You guys are on it. Always have been, always will be. Nicola is one of like 5 Nicolas, I think, that work at DeFi Saver. Fun fact. And a really fun team. Good people. All right. User Harrock.
I met him at ETH Denver recently.
Yeah. Did you go this year? I forgot to ask you.
I did. It was much more subdued than previous years. The venue was, the venue was not nearly as lively, the layout of it. You just didn't get to see as many people going through the main thoroughfares. But
was it in the National Western Conference still, the big one, or did they get a new place?
They got a new place.
Okay. Is it larger than,
I think it has more square footage, but it felt like a ghost town. So was it because the venue was larger? I don't think so. They certainly weren't using the entire venue. Yeah, I would say it wasn't as fun as previous years. Is that because it's a bear market, or is that because uh,
People are anxious.
is that because of the new venue, or is it a cultural tone shift in the administration of ETH Denver? I don't know, but
Yeah, there's that. Because I think Owaki started ETH Boulder just prior to ETH Denver. I don't know if there was some mind share loss there. Well, and to your point, whenever I'm not a professional in terms of event planning, but I know one thing's for sure is you don't want to have a venue that outsizes your party. It's better for people to feel like they're in a crowd than exposed. So, for instance, high school proms with small high schools should partition the basketball court for a dance or whatever. That
and they did that with the venue where they had,
okay,
as I said, large part of it blocked off.
pipe and
But
drape.
even still, I never had a problem finding a beanbag to go lounge in. The number of actual booths there were just felt much smaller. In the previous year, I was still working at SETI, so I was required to go to pretty much every AI event I could to try and do business development, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't get to spend much time at the venue because I was at all the satellites.
Mm.
This time I didn't spend that much time at the venue because there just wasn't that much going on at the venue. It
Yeah.
just so
Just
I spent
quiet.
more time out at all the satellite events just because that's where all the people I knew were. That's where the fun was happening, as
good.
opposed to had to go do work.
But you felt like just in general, regardless of the venue choice, or were you feeling like even the side parties were lower in attendance generally
Oh, yeah. There was probably 25% as many events as there were previous years.
Whoa. Wow.
It was a big drop off. I mean, it's not to say there wasn't always something to do. There was, but previously your calendar, you were making difficult decisions between whatever to do, and it was packed the entire day from as early as you'd ever want to get up to breakfast events, brunch events, lunch events, and then dinner events, and then drinking events and bar events, and every hour of the day for the whole week there was something to do.
We're growing up. Maybe
not that way here, and a lot of the events I did see were, I mean, there was still. Don't get me wrong. I still found like a karaoke event. I still found events at bars. I still found, but they were less splashy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
like
there you go.
The swag wasn't on point. Yeah, there might not have been an open bar this time. That type of thing. Right. It was less splashy, and the conversations in the previous year were all unhealthily AI centric, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's bending over backward to be like, oh yeah, Filecoin is the place where you can host your AI models, and people are like, psh, no, right? But they felt obligated to shape their pitch in such a way so that would be part of their booth, and so every booth you'd go to was like, oh, this is how we contribute to the AI vision. It was just stupid.
Well,
almost all of that was gone from the main venue this time. So all the AI stuff was at the satellite events, and at least to the degree I could find things, a lot of the AI teams from previous years, they just don't exist anymore. There's been incredible amounts of just sweeping of the field of failures that gave it a try and failed to get adoption or whatever, and they're no longer in the space at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of money switching around,
So I think that a lot of that talent probably left for like the Anthropic types, right? Left the DAI space and went back to centralized AI because that's where the customers, that's where the money is, that's where the paychecks are.
Is. Yeah,
I certainly could make more than I'm making right now if I went off and got a Web 2 position, but I'm trying to get out of the country, so hard to do that.
Hard to do that. That's a good summary. Thanks for the update on that. Good to hear. Yeah, hopefully it'll. I mean, I want to go. I couldn't make it this year. It just wasn't in the cards for me. All right. User Harog summarizes some of the talks at ECC. Let's see. I'm at ECC in Cannes, France, and attended a few talks. There's so many talks, which centered around European markets, European regulations, and EUR stablecoins. As a caveat, the speakers work for a company, so the talks will definitely have a bias for whatever product they have. Here's some of the talks I thought were interesting. The MiCA Look Back, Regulation Adoption in Europe's Crypto Crossroads by Ambroise Helene from Bybit. I'm probably butchering the name. Crypto holders in Europe grew from 8% in 2022 to 10 to 12% in 2025. Centralized exchanges seem to have focused on traders, as these are an easy growth opportunity for them, but most European users just seem not to want to trade compared to US and Asian users. Europeans seem to prefer reliable yields in ETFs and do not like to bet on single coins to moon. This can also be seen in stock market investments where Europeans seem to be a bit more conservative. That is one of the reasons why there aren't many European centralized exchanges, and the European market is now mostly served by the large American or Asian exchanges. A talk from Martin Brunko from Schumann Financial regarding stablecoins. Tether is most probably among the top 5 buyers of U.S. treasuries. Non-USD stablecoins are only a tiny fraction of all stablecoins. Okay, let me read that again. Non-USD stablecoins are only a tiny fraction of all stablecoins. At the moment, about
EuroC, that type of thing. Right?
I was just making sure
everything's denominated in USD. Like even decentralized stablecoins like DAI, guess what?
Yeah,
denominated in USD.
I got it. I just wanted to reread it because I thought I read it wrong. The rest is used in cross-border payments or payments in general, but overall, crypto trading is only a very small fraction of all trades involving any nation-state currency. He thinks in the next few years, stablecoins pegged to other currencies will grow simply because governments will force companies in their jurisdictions to use their national currencies. This will make non-USD stablecoins a growth market in the coming years. Interesting.
For the record, they are growing. Like in the last 3 years, it's up by about 800%. So if you give it something close to a cycle, right? They are growing pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well,
you get a couple more doublings, and I mean, even just let it go 2x per year for 10 years, and you're up 1,000x, right?
Yeah.
These things they take a while to get going, but they pick up pace as you get more adoption options, legitimacy, less regulatory risk, et cetera. And we're seeing good signs of that pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
With the U.S. getting out of the way of its own project, choke point 2.0 type things.
Yeah.
We are seeing more. We're seeing more stablecoin adoption of USD, and as he just said, Tether is a huge buyer of treasuries at this point. So that is something other nations would like to repeat.
Yeah,
they would like to find their own buyer of $1 trillion or $1 trillion EUR, right? But at the moment, they're racing to catch up, and nothing in Europe ever moves fast, right? The legislation process there is laborious, but it is a priority of the Eurozone because they're like, oh, dang, that's actually working over there. They just kind of stood around twiddling their thumbs for a while the U.S. eventually got out of its own way, and then it's like, oh, stablecoins are going to help us, help the whole nation, and becomes a national priority. And everyone else in the world's like, oh, wait a second, we shouldn't have been ignoring that? Dang, that's how to catch up.
That's how they're on the catch-up game. Well said. And then finally, make sure I get, it says Harog, reporting from Cannes, France. ECC at Cannes, France. Sorry, my brain's mushy. Gisli Chris Jansen, I don't know, I'm butchering her name or his name, I don't know, from Monarium. Monarium, man, why do I recognize Monarium?
It's basically the fiat off ramp for Europe. I will get that once right. Once I move out of the US, I absolutely will get that. But it's like rather than having to deposit your stable coin to Coinbase or Gemini or something, then convert it to dollars and then withdraw to a bank account and then off to your races.
Right.
You can just directly spend it, or get a credit card that you can repay with the stable coin. So bypass the banking layer entirely. You actually have an IBAN number if you have the Monarium account, and it's linked to your crypto address. So you can just directly convert the stable coins to your bank account.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. If only we could have that in the US.
Monarium issues the EURE stablecoin, which can be be on and off ramp through a bank account number. I've been using them for 2 years now. Their product is pretty good. In his talk, he mentions that EUR stablecoins only have a 0.35% market share compared to USD pegged ones. Damn, that's what you were saying, Logri. This makes them massively less liquid. He then compared different liquidity improving methods and their costs, like market makers on centralized exchanges or liquidity incentives on decentralized ones. In the end, all of these are pretty expensive, but they needed a solution. What they have just launched now are instant liquidity injections in intents-based DEXs, okay? Like CowSwap on Ethereum mainnet. The mechanism is that any solver on CowSwap can request up to 100,000 EURE through Monerium directly. They expect to increase that limit in the future and also expand to other chains which are supported by EURE. Thanks to these liquidity injection mechanisms, users can reliably get better USD to EUR exchange rates than through their banks or fintech providers. Overall, I am loving ECC and all these projects and companies represented here. All right,
To be clear, you already could get better EURC to USD conversion rates than through any Forex exchange at any bank.
Okay.
Like there's just a bunch of middlemen. Any system that you could access to do Forex, you'd already have a bunch of middlemen eating fees.
Yeah.
And so at the core level, Forex is a really tight market with very low spreads. But what they offer to consumers, the retail rate, has like multiple percentages of spreads sometimes. If you go to a desk in an airport when you land there, you might get a 5% spread.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Trying to convert your USD to euro and like cash bills in an airport.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So to be fair, if you just went to Curve and swapped your URC for USDC or vice versa, you already have a much better spread, much more fair price, and you can get through any TradFi access point that's available to retail. But this is basically providing at the banking layer. So now through the IBAN account you have with Monerium, you can access the DeFi spread rates, which is
That's
cool.
huge. Yeah,
that's going to hopefully create more adoption, right?
Yeah. And CowSwap is just, it works. I love it. And yeah, so I wish them all the best. I think that's fantastic, and they'll help improve liquidity. And when you make improvements like that, that attracts more liquidity, because there's now people want to be market makers too.
It's a subtle boon to everyone who has a Monerium account that has a card linked to it, that you go to Mexico or whatever, anywhere that doesn't, take euros. You go to the UK and you spend pounds or whatever. There's a foreign transaction fee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the rate of exchange that you get, and what's the foreign transaction fee? Both of those can be lower by using the chain.
Right.
So they've just integrated it into the bank account layer.
I love it. It's good. That's smoothing it. Those blurring those rails. I like it. All right. Finally, this week, Random Zalayan Maine shares the first piece of proper Australian crypto legislation, Deuter number 20 for this week. Australia passed digital assets framework. Comes with some strong consumer protections and compliance hurdles for startups, but also is the first comprehensive crypto law passed there and signals they want to actually compete in the global digital economy. Similar to my conversations with the Bank of England here in the UK. It may be controversial to have rules of the road, but it actually reduces regulatory uncertainties from an investment perspective. It says it can be done slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. All right. Well, that wraps up for this week. This is, 145th episode for this April 3rd, 2026. Make sure you smash some bells. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We have been seeing quite a few downloads on the old Apple Podcast, and it feels good. Leave us a comment anywhere you're watching this, and hope you guys have a great Easter weekend if you're into that sort of thing. Otherwise, have just a fantastic weekend. From all of us at dailydoots.com and the Reddit daily general discussion, of course, our friends, the EV Mavericks on Discord, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.